right, as promised here on the State of the Union, the great Bruce Arena joins us, coach of the San Jose Earthquakes. Now, Bruce, I am going to give you the highest compliment I can give somebody, and that is that you make me care. In that there was a long time when it came to the San Jose Earthquakes that, I'll be honest with you, I didn't care. And then come to find out that you are going to take over there, and the initial announcement got me to care, and certainly the way that you started out the season has gotten me to care. Where are you here now, almost a third of the way into the season here, in terms of this project, and how good do you think that this San Jose team can ultimately be?
Well, this is certainly a challenging project. We have a lot of things organizationally that we have to get better to be among, the top teams in the league. We're far behind there, but I think there's an interest on the part of ownership to, help us improve the product on the field. I think our team so far this year, our record is 3 wins, 5 losses, and a draw, and I think with a little bit of maybe a little bit smarter play on our part, we'd have 5 wins at this point. So, we're an improved team. My goal is to get us into the second half of the season where we can contend to be a playoff team. We're taking baby steps here. The team finished 29 out of 29 last year, so we can only go up. And, it's been a fairly positive start. The results aren't great, obviously, to date, but we're showing improvements, and we've begun to improve facilities here, which is helpful. So we're moving forward. I'd like us to be moving a little quicker than we are, but that's all part of the exercise. So it's been nice, good people to work with. Obviously, the weather in Northern California is fantastic. I've enjoyed that. And so we're, working hard every day to try to make the club better.
You have a long history of being able to come into situations and suss them out very quickly. And so, without crapping on what happened before or looking too far back, but also, being honest with what the San Jose Earthquakes were, when you did take a look under the hood, what were some of the immediate problems that you recognized, and how have you at least attempted so far to go about fixing those?
Well, clearly, the facilities have to be better. I think your everyday environment is critically important. The league right now, many clubs that just have fantastic facilities. Our game day facilities, the stadium is fine. Our practice facilities and the facilities for our everyday activities needs to improve. And we just opened up a building that has my office and our team meeting room and lounges, and then we're building a dining hall as well. So that's a real positive. And then next is coming a second training field, and then the goal is to have a training facility, which we are hopeful that in the short term we will finalize what those plans are. So that's the start of really moving the club forward. In terms, the other obvious area that I felt needed to improve is the roster. And we're slowly doing that, because of our current situation. I don't think we're positioned yet to bring in players of a higher stature at this point, but hopefully that'll happen one day. So we've improved the roster. We're improving the facilities. I have a good coaching staff. I have good support from the front office, and hopefully, we showed that we're going to make progress this year.
All right, so that's the micro of the San Jose Earthquakes. Let's look at a little bit of the macro when it comes to Major League Soccer, because you've been there since the start. You've seen the good, bad, and the ugly, both on and off the field, and you've seen the progress. And it's always interesting to pick your brain as to where we are, and we love to tell other people how to spend their money and what to do. When you look at MLS in this 30th year, when you look at MLS with the 30th team, as the saying goes, you've come a long way, baby. What are some of the things, either small or big, on the field, off the field, that you, Bruce Arena, look at that if you could wave your magic wand, you would start to change when it comes to Major League Soccer?
Well, clearly everyone would say is obviously have a little bit more freedom to how you can build a team in terms of the salary cap. No question about that. And we have so many rules that are kind of crazy. to be honest with you. But with the World Cup coming here in 26, it's going to be similar to the 1994 World Cup, where players from around the world, they travel our country, they see the respect the sport's now getting, they see the stadiums that are being built. Everyone knows about the league. They know Lionel Messi's here, Beckham was here. Some great players have been here, and other great players are going to come. I think after the 2026 World Cup, I think players that are still in their prime are going to want to come here. And in order to do that, the league is going to have to be a little bit more lenient, maybe get rid of the limitations on the salary cap or DPs or whatever it is. But we're going to attract elite players. I have calls now from agents and clubs of very elite players around the world, and they want to come here, and they're all talking about coming in 2026. So it's kind of interesting. So I think one big change is going to be, when we started in '96, and for many, many years, and even in my years at the LA Galaxy, people around the league would complain that, we're being treated differently, this and that. There's supposed to be parity. There's not going to be parity anymore. There's going to be a wide gap from the Inter Miamis of the world to the San Jose Earthquakes. I really believe that, and that's all part of the exercise. So I think that the concept of parity in the league is going to change a little bit. But I do also believe that having some kind of financial restrictions is good for the growth of the league. I don't think we can get into situations that we saw many, many years ago with the NASL, where basically people tried to chase the Cosmos and it basically bankrupted the league. I don't think we can go there yet, but I think there's going to be more freedom financially to allow clubs to build their rosters with some of the top players around the world.
So would you be in favor of, for example, if you want to spend, fine, but a minimum when it comes to spending so that there's not a huge disparity between the top and the bottom?
Yeah, I would think so. But, listen, I'm not in position to make those decisions. I'm not investing anything into a club. So,
well, we love to spend other people's money.
Yeah, I can spend other people's money, not my own. And those are decisions ownership has to make. But you do see that there's a new group of owners in the league that are very enthusiastic about spending money and making their teams among the elite teams in the league.
When the ownership does make decisions, obviously it affects you as a coach in terms of what you do, and you as leadership and a decision maker when it comes to what you do. So, for example, the stuff that's being bandied about right now when it comes to changing the actual season and when to play and going to a more European type of calendar, or, for example, USL coming out and talking about promotion relegation, which is a kind of evergreen topic. What are your thoughts on those two things?
Well, I don't think promotion and relegation will work in our league for some time, because the league has worked so hard to bring in investors over the years that I think that San Diego comes into the league now, and if they get relegated in 2 years, they're not going to be happy. That's not part of the contract I think they made with the league. I think that's going to be a real hard one to pull off. I don't even know who has the authority to make those rules. Is that the federation? Is that the league? Whatever. I don't know about that. The other part with changing the calendar, I've not been part of those conversations. Naturally, you've seen that a lot of people are in favor of it. Again, you're talking about two areas that I certainly don't have any input on, the financial decisions and the calendar. And it'll be interesting to see. I think when those decisions are made, I may no longer be coaching in this league. So,
yeah, but you started out the conversation talking about the investment that the San Jose Earthquakes are putting into the infrastructure, for example. And sometimes when people are screaming and yelling about promotion relegation, they fail to recognize that in a promotion relegation system where you do have those risks right now, maybe your ownership or other ownership wouldn't feel comfortable putting that money in that moment to do the things that have a long-term effect because they have to think in the short term out there. All right. Well,
I agree with that. I mean, in all of our professional sports leagues in this country, we don't have promotion relegation. And so that is not in the American sports culture.
Do you think it hurts the competition on the field or the growth of Major League Soccer?
It might. It certainly does have an impact on the competition. I think when teams are battling to stay out of 18th, 19th, and 20th place in the EPL, it is some serious business. And right now we're watching Arsenal play Crystal Palace, and they're battling to stay second and not third because the differences financially. I think those leagues is obviously very, very competitive throughout their schedule. Obviously, we don't have the same situation in MLS. So does that impact competition? Yeah, it does. No question about that.
Let's shift to the U.S. men's national team, obviously a team that you know and love and have guided over the years to some incredible and historic success. An interesting time that we are in right now, Bruce, with what this team is. I think we're 14 days away from the World Cup in 2026, and I'm hard pressed to think at a time where we are more, there's more consternation or worry relative to this team, and at a time, like you said, where we should kind of all be pulling in one direction right now. General thoughts as to where this team is, and I know there is kind of honor among all of you coaches, and you want to be respectful of Mauricio Pochettino right now, but you see what's going on right now, and I know you want this team to do well right now. Should the American public out there be excited and positive in this moment as we get ready for, as you said, what is going to be an incredible summer for the game, both on and off the field?
Well, hopefully everyone is going to be excited. Those comments I made last week in my interview with Landon Donovan, Tim Howard, of course, get blown out of proportion. But one thing I do think is that we have a very talented roster, and the results recently have not looked good. And I stated some of my opinions, and I see that players are talking about it and all. I don't know why they're not better than they are right now, but I have the confidence that they have, when healthy, they have a really deep roster and some very good players. So there's no reason to believe that in the next year, if they get their act together, they can't field a team in the World Cup that's going to get out of group play and hopefully move on from there.
Right before the 98 cycle, or after the 98 cycle, when you took over the U.S. men's national team, having been there, I know we were not in a good place. And again, you came in and you sussed out the situation. Is there anything that you think would apply to this team right now, again, a year away from 2026, in terms of things that can be done to, hopefully bottle some of that magic that we saw in 2002 with your team, where we were arguably a handball away from possibly going to a semifinal. And we, by the way, did it with young players, some very inexperienced players when you're looking at Landon Donovan, DeMarcus Beasley, MLS players. And so is there anything that we think we can take from the past and use it to be successful in the future?
Sure, you can. Whether that's, I don't know the direction the manager is going with that team and his thinking. I don't know that. And one thing, it's easy for us from the outside to comment about a team because we're not inside and we don't know what the issues are, what they're trying to accomplish, and all of that. But I'd like to believe that at the club level, he's a very experienced coach and has had a lot of success. I would think, hopefully in the next year, if they get the right kind of competition and have the Gold Cup coming up, and obviously they'll have friendlies against good teams in 2026 because everyone's going to want to come to the country to get a feel for it. So they'll have some good games, and there's no reason to believe they can't get a more synchronized type of team and understand how they need to play and how they're going to be positioned to advance. They're going to get a draw that's going to be very favorable. They're going to be a seeded team. The World Cup has expanded to 48 teams, so you know that there's going to be games in their group play they're going to win. So there's no reason to believe they can't be successful. How they're going to do it, I don't know, because I'm not inside the team. We all see from the outside. We don't know what the issues are inside the team. We don't know how they're trying to accomplish how they need to play and be successful. So there's still a lot ahead. The only thing I've said is, to date, this cycle's obviously been disappointing, and they're certainly capable of being much better.
Bruce, you have famously kind of coalesced power and taken on multiple roles in many of the positions that you have been in. Obviously coach, but then also, we can call it technical director, sporting director, whatever you want to call it, leader, grand poobah, whatever it ends up being. Our wonderful late friend Ziggy Schmidt would often talk about, hey, listen, if you want me to cook the meal, you got to let me go and shop for the groceries. And I think that is something that you and others would want to have. So when you are looking at it from a administrative level, and not only the X's and O's that are going on the field, what the United States Federation did with Greg Berhalter, if you had been in that position, do you think that after the failure of 2022, that was the right move to make a change and to fire Greg Berhalter and to move on?
I don't know if did they fire Greg or they just didn't rehire him, right? I don't even remember now. They didn't offer him a new contract, right?
Well, so after the World Cup, right? And after the World Cup, there was all indications they were going to hire him, and then all the craziness with the Reyes happened. Then they rehired him. But after bowing out and the failure when it came to Copa America, do you think it was time to move on?
Again, I don't know who makes those decisions. I do think they get very influenced by social media, and a change can always be good, and it can be bad as well. I see nothing wrong with making a change. After I was finished in 2026, U.S. Soccer decided to make a change. And I thought I could have stayed on, but I do realize that, you bring in a new person, there might be a different way of doing things. I think the issue with U.S. Soccer right now is not only was there a coaching change, but the whole organization's changed. There's different people, there's a new president, there's a new CEO. They do things differently. They appear, and I'm just looking from the outside, to be very corporate, and they're moving on and they want to have their own way of doing things and a new agenda. I think they wouldn't give me the time of day if I asked for it right now. They have forgotten about everything in the past, and they're moving forward with the way they want to do things. So I think that's fine. It's great news to see they're building a training center that we've been trying to build for 30 years, and that's finally getting accomplished. So that's positive. And then obviously they're preparing, to host the World Cup. So there's some positive things ahead. There's a new way of doing things, which is okay. I think that's good. That'll happen in MLS one day as well. So change can be real positive, and hopefully it's all there for them. It's either put up or shut up at this point, and they got the greatest opportunity they'll ever have by hosting this World Cup and having a chance to really win over the public for our sport. I do think now the sport in our country is well respected. I think we all are confident we could have 5 major league sports in America. We're a big country. It's accepted. Things are moving forward. I think it's just a great time. So hopefully U.S. Soccer does their job. They host a great World Cup, and the team does well. I think the sport has a great future. I think for the national team and for MLS, I think there's so many positive things that are ahead, and hopefully we show that in the World Cup as well, that we're a country that's improving and will be competitive in our home country for the World Cup.
Couple more questions, Bruce, and I appreciate your time, and I'll let you go on it. But I want to piggyback on what you just said there. I've often found, and you've been around longer than I have when it comes to soccer, and you've seen the growth and the arc and the ups and downs. when it comes to the American soccer public out there, whether it's the players or the fans or just the culture and community, I often talk about the insecurity that we have, and we seem to have to apologize for what we aren't when it comes to our soccer. When you look at the American player, and whether it's a player in MLS or USL or just an American player out there, do you think that they are downgraded either by themselves or domestically by others or people from the outside in terms of how good they are? And I guess the ultimate question would be, are there MLS players right now that you think are of the same or maybe even better quality than players that are playing at much higher, quote unquote, higher levels around the world? Are there MLS players right now that you think could play on the national team and could be successful in the way that, years ago you brought MLS players and said, if he's good enough, he's good enough, you put him on the field, and obviously they rewarded you and ultimately rewarded the country?
We have a number of MLS players that could do very well at the international level. However, at this point in time, you can't introduce new players. I think without having any experience in the international game, it's real difficult. So I can't imagine a whole lot of new faces being part of our roster for the next World Cup. But I do believe that the American player continues to improve. And look at our players that are playing overseas and the successes they're having with real quality teams. Who would have thought we'd have players playing at Milan, Juventus, those some of the biggest clubs in the world. We have players in Germany, in Belgium, in England, in Holland, yeah, in Italy, obviously, and they're doing great. That wasn't the case when you and your 3 or 4 friends were overseas, getting beat up and being maybe not respected the way you should have been. And I think now, they're making their marks in football in Europe. And that's a real positive. And I think you're going to see in the future, we have, even in our club here, we have young players that I'm absolutely surprised at their quality at this point in time. That was never the case 20 years ago. So the American player is improving. They're going to continue to get great opportunities abroad. And our league's going to grow, where our league is going to be one day as good as the top leagues in the world. So I think, the sport has a real positive future in our country.
I lied. I'm going to sneak one in here right before my last question because you just brought up American players. But I also want to give you the opportunity to talk quickly about the American coach. Do you think that the American coach is, I guess, disrespected or not respected enough internationally as to what they can do?
Yes, I don't doubt that at all. And I tell these stories frequently, when I went abroad and met with coaches and sat down with them and have been kind of surprised at where they're at. And I still say to this day, I've learned more by talking with a coach in the NFL, the NBA, or baseball than I have speaking with coaches in Europe or South America. I think coaching in our country is simply outstanding. It really is. Have we trailed a little bit in our sport? Yes, but today, I look around the league. There's some great American coaches in our league, and I know that better than anybody because I've been around all of these guys for a number of years. We have some simply outstanding coaches in the league, and I think they have a great future, and our sport and our national team programs are going to be elite one day. I have no doubt about that.
Last question, Bruce Arena, I'll let you go. I ask this to everybody that comes on the show. It can be big or small, on the field, off the field. What is the best thing about American soccer, and what is the worst thing about American soccer?
The best thing about American soccer is that we're growing and we're very diverse. And we have a great following, not only in our communities, but now players from around the world want to be here. I mean, if I had a conversation yesterday with somebody talking to me about players around the world that want to come into the league. And if I mentioned their names, who they were, you'd be very surprised. So I think that's the best part of American soccer right now is a lot of people want to be part of it. And maybe that's due to the messy factor. That he has certainly helped us grab the attention of people around the world, and so the sport continues to grow in our country because I think Messi's playing a big role with that. To be quite frank, what's the bad part of soccer in our country? I don't know if I can even say that anymore. I mean, if you asked me that question 10, 20 years ago, I could rattle off 10 things. I don't think I could do it anymore. It's real positive. We're in a real upswing, and and the World Cup is going to really help the rest of the world see how well respected the sport is in our country and how well we are moving in the right direction as a potentially a world power in this sport one day.
Well, Bruce, I don't think that I'm telling you or your wife or family anything that you don't know. At times you have been looked at it, maybe a little bit of a grumpy old man, curmudgeon type of thing. And the fact that you ended this on such a positive note that you couldn't even find something that was problematic when it came
I would have
to
probably Alexi
American soccer.
Lalas would have been the right answer.
There you go. Now we're talking. Now that's it. Well, regardless, thank you so much. Thank you so much for spending some time here with me. Thank you so much for everything that you have done and continue to do on behalf of all of us, whether we've played for you, whether we've played against you, or whether we've just been in the ecosystem that you have helped to grow over these years. You are a true legend of the game. I wish you and your San Jose Earthquakes all the luck going forward. Again, you have made me, and I think others, certainly from the outside, care again about what's going on up there, and we'll see what happens when it comes to the San Jose Earthquakes. Good luck, my friend.
Thank you, and I want to thank you for all the hard work you give our sport and the attention you bring, and I love to hear your comments and where we are. So I appreciate that. You're helping our sport move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, we'll definitely edit that out. My good friend, producer Sean will edit that out. Thanks, Bruce. Good luck.
Thank you. Okay, bye now.
You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops twice a week right here on my very own YouTube page. The only way to stay up to date is to hit that subscribe button down below. Size the day, and see you soon.